I'm going to start off with my draft grades for the teams in the AFC East, starting with the Buffalo Bills. They come in with a B plus. I felt they had a really strong draft, especially with them going defensive heavy with their first couple of selections. Maxwell Harrison, one of the more underrated cornerbacks in this class, somebody who rose up the ranks throughout the draft process, really athletic, really fluid. I think that he has really good ball skills as well. Not only should he be a immediate contributor to this Bills defense, but I wouldn't be surprised if he quickly establishes himself as one of the better corners in the league. Then you get TJ Sanders out of South Carolina around two. South Carolina, to me, has the best strength and conditioning program in all of college football. All of the South Carolina guys tested out incredibly well at the combine. TJ Sanders is one of those kinds of defensive tackles where within 2, 3 years from now, we could see him blossom into one of the better interior defensive linemen in the league. Landon Jackson, he is really raw. I thought that he would have went a lot higher than what he did, but he reminds me a lot of Gregory Rousseau. Freakish athlete, but needs a little bit more polish. You will love for him to have a few more pass rush moves, but like we've seen Sean McDermott do with Gregory Rousseau, he has done a really good job developing him, and he has steadily improved every single year. And I expect Landon Jackson to follow in that similar career path. But if you don't get Gregory Rousseau out of Landon Jackson, then I could see you getting some AJ Epinesa out of him. At worst, he probably is a good rotational pass rusher. At best, you're looking at somebody who should be able to consistently give you 7, 8 sacks a year. Deonte Walker, before the start of last college football season, he was projected to be a first round pick in a lot of mock drafts, but he just was really underwhelming to watch. He got pushed around a lot in the run game. He didn't really bring too much from a pass rush standpoint, neither. But with how good the Bills are at developing interior defensive linemen, they definitely could get the most out of Deonte Walker. The athleticism is there. The traits are there. It's just he was just incredibly underwhelming for a strange reason. Maybe he just melded in when Kentucky just ended up sucking. But another pick that I like is Dorian Strong. He won't be somebody that's going to come in and be an immediate contributor to the Bills defense. He more so would be a special teams guy, but I could see him within the span of 2 seasons from now turning into a pretty good starter. Overall, this was a really strong draft by the Buffalo Bills. That's why I give them a B plus. But you just would have loved to see them find some more instant impact kind of guys outside of Maxwell Harrison and TJ Sanders. A good amount of these dudes are going to be guys that probably blossom into solid starters within 2, 3 seasons from now. That's just wishful thinking. The Miami Dolphins, I loved what they did in the draft this year. Their first 3 picks they spent on improving the trenches, which is something they absolutely had to do with how they have just melted apart during the second half of the season under Mike McDaniel the last couple of years. And they've been arguably the softest football team in the National Football League. Well, you add Kenneth Grant and you put him next to Zach Sealer. A huge reason why Miami's defensive line kind of took a step back is due to the loss of Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins, not only was he really good against the run, but he was turning into a really dominant pass rusher. Kenneth Grant, I feel, may not be Christian Wilkins per se, but he will be an anchor on that run defense. Pass rush, maybe you can see him turning into a 7, 6 sack guy, which is really good for a defensive tackle. Defensive tackles normally don't give you a lot of pass rush production unless you're getting like a DeForest Buckner or Aaron Donald. You get 6, 7 sacks out of Kenneth Grant a year. He's one of the better defensive tackles in the league if you get that. Then you get one of the Samoans out of Arizona. You can never go wrong drafting one of these Hawaiian offensive linemen. They normally end up turning into gold. Jordan Phillips, you get him in the fifth round. Another depth guy to add on that defensive line. And this is when this year's draft for Miami kind of started to make no sense to me. Jason Marshall, he has had one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fall off out of any prospect that I've seen over these last couple of years. His freshman season, he was all world. But ever since then, it's just been decline, decline, decline. Injuries have been somewhat of a factor also. I don't really think you're going to get too much out of Jason Marshall. I do love the selection of Ollie Gordon the second. He was the Doak Walker Award 2 seasons ago. Really good size, has pretty good burst. He's going to be the Thunder to Devon A Chain. You'll have like a Lightning Thunder running back duo. You did draft a running back last year, Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. Ollie Gordon's better than him. Don't really trip on the production that Ollie Gordon had last year. I know the numbers look really bad, but you got to judge him based off the tape that he put on film. And 2023, that's when Oklahoma State actually had somewhat of a good offensive line. Last year, their offensive line was dog shit. They were the worst team in their conference. And then you get Quinn Ewers in round 7. If you get the Quinn Ewers that we saw in that first quarter against Alabama in 2022, he could be a really good backup and a potential starter for you if you just get tired of Tua just going down with injuries. But he should be a really good backup. The thing with Quinn Ewers is he just didn't live up to the potential that he had when he had all this hype coming out of high school, pretty much one of the highest rated high school recruits all time. But he's not garbage. In a system like Mike McDaniel, where he's scheming guys open, is quarterback friendly, Quinn Ewers should be pretty productive in this offense. I could see him beating out Zach Wilson right away for the backup quarterback job. So the Miami Dolphins, I give them a B plus for their draft this year. The New York Jets absolutely knocked this year's draft out of the park. Not only are they getting an A plus, but they had one of the best draft classes this year. You get Mimbu, who some would tell you was the best offensive tackle in this class, over Will Campbell. Understandable, really good size. Oh, you talk about a freakish athlete. Oh my goodness. The Jets' offensive line should be one of the better units in the league. They have invested a lot on the O-line, from Joe Tippmann to Elijah Vera Tucker to Alou Fashanu. Getting Mumbu should now piece this unit all together perfectly. Mason Taylor, one of the more underrated prospects in this draft. He wasn't talked about enough at LSU. He is the son, or not the son, but he is related to Jason Taylor. To get him in round 2 was surprising. I thought he probably would have fell a little bit further due to him not really receiving a lot of attention. But he also could come in and have an immediate impact for you. You normally don't see tight ends make a lot of noise in a rookie season. One of the hardest transitions to make as a tight end going from college to the NFL is the amount of the playbook that you have to learn, from pass blocking, run blocking. Then you also got to understand the routes that you have to run. But he's going to be a pretty productive player for New York. Maybe he doesn't make a lot of noise as a rookie, but 2-3 years down the road, I expect him to be a top 5 tight end in the game. He has really good hands. He's pretty good after the catch. He's a really solid tight end prospect, and he got overlooked by Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren. Azaria Thomas, you get him in the 3rd round out of Florida State. His 40 time really killed him. But if he was able to run a faster 40, I thought that he probably would have been a 1st round pick. Really smooth corner. He was the only Florida State player on that defense that you actually could pay attention to, who wasn't getting cooked constantly. Florida State was an embarrassment last year. They went 2-10 after winning the ACC championship the year before, and everybody on that defense looked like they had melded in outside of Azaria Thomas. I know that the lateral speed, the vertical speed is going to be a question. Is he going to be able to keep up with some of the faster receivers in the league? But if you can overlook that, man, with Aaron Glenn being a defensive minded coach, he should be able to get him on the field at some point this year. Guys like Richard Sherman didn't test incredibly well. He is pretty long, lengthy, with good size. I don't like the selection of Arian Smith. I felt this was a reach, one of the few reaches that the Jets made in this drive. I wouldn't touch any receiver that played on Georgia last year. That was a unit that just had butterfingers for hands. He is really fast. He could be a good kick punt returner for you, but I don't know how you're going to get him on the field. His hands, his drops are a severe question mark. And I felt he more so was like a day three, like round six, round seven kind of guy. Malachi Moore, really, really good safety. I think he's really good in run support. His coverage can be hit or miss at times, but really passionate about the game, plays with a high level of intensity. Then you get Francisco Magoa from my Miami Hurricanes. He could be a good backup linebacker. I don't really know if he'll turn into a good starter. Miami's defense, if you don't recall, was the worst in college football. It was the reason why Cam Ward got robbed of making it to the CFP. Maybe he'll be a good special teamer. Maybe he could be developed and molded into a serviceable starter linebacker. But at this point, round 5, you're just looking for a good backup options, maybe somebody who can become a good starter for you down the road. Tyler Barron, really, really good. Okay, I thought he was one of the better pass rushers in this class. When Miami got him last year, he made a pretty big impact on that defense. He's not really good against the run to me, but he is able to get after the quarterback. So as a rookie, maybe you put him in on a few packages, third down situations, obvious passing situations is probably where you'll want him in the game, ideally. But to get somebody like him in round 5, I felt was one of the bigger steals in the draft, only due to the upside that he has. I feel if Aaron Glenn can do a good job developing him, you're getting somebody that has high upside to give you around like 8-9 sacks a season, and he's been pretty productive throughout his college career. He has played 5 seasons. He played 4 in Tennessee. He finished last season with Miami. He had 6 sacks in 2023, 5.5 last year at Miami. I think his run defense can use a lot of improvement, as I stated earlier, but overall, the potential definitely is there for him to become a really serviceable pass rusher for New York on the defensive line that already does have a lot of pass rush talent, from Quinnen Williams to Will Donald. Lastly, I got the New England Patriots. They also had one of the best drafts this year. You draft Will Campbell 4th overall. You could say that Mimbu was better, but with the character that Will Campbell has, he, from a technical standpoint, from footwork, hand placement, I feel he's really good. He should come in right away and at least be above average left tackle for you. I'm not really concerned about the short arms. A lot has been made out about that. And, arm length does matter, but overall, you're getting a really good player, a hard worker, and I bet on the character when it comes to Will Campbell. He's a leader. He was a captain at LSU. Then you get Travion Henderson in the 2nd round out of Ohio State. One of the best overall players from this draft. He was the 3rd running back on my board when it came to my top 10 running back rankings. And the gap between Travion Henderson and Amarion Hampton, Ashton Jeanty is not really that big. Ashton Jeanty's here. Travion Henderson and Amarion Hampton, they're like right here. He can do everything. He's probably the best pass block, not even probably, he is the best pass blocking running back in this draft. He also has really good vision. He's explosive. He has elite acceleration. You give him the football, he goes 0 to 100 instantly. He can break tackles. This is a three down back. And don't be surprised if you see him dethroning Ramondre Stevenson as soon as we get to the conclusion of training camp, because he can just do it all. There's no reason why you should ever think of taking Travion Henderson off the field unless you're just giving him a breather to catch his wind. Kyle Williams, one of the bigger diamond in the rough wide receiver prospects in the draft this year. Really good route runner. At Washington State, he was the only NFL caliber player that they had on that team. He should compete for a starting job right away in New England. You give Drake May, a really good route runner that does a good job of getting open. And one of the more underrated traits that gets overlooked about receivers is IQ. Kyle Williams was one of those receivers that just seems to always know how to find the holes in zone coverage. You get Jarrett Wilson, safety out of the University of Georgia. You can never go wrong drafting interior offensive lineman from Georgia. Don't know if he will be a plug-and-play starter for New England right out the gate, but eventually you would think he should turn into a pretty productive starter. Maybe not a Pro Bowl caliber guy, but I can see Jarrett Wilson being a 7-8 year starter in this league. Then you get Andreas Borgalis in the 6th round, one of the best kickers in all of college football, very accurate. You don't see a lot of weird misses from him. This was a great draft class that Mike Vrabel and this front office put together with this new regime. This is a great way to start things off. I felt last year's draft by New England was pretty overwhelming. They reached for a lot of guys. This year, you got really good value. You got guys that probably should have gone a lot earlier. I thought Gerald Wilson probably would have been a 2nd rounder, but great draft class that the Patriots put together. And these are my draft grades for all the teams in the AFC East.